An interesting place to visit, isn't it?
It's wonderful. Yes.
In the early days of Speights Breweries, I don't know whether they told you this on the tour or not, but they used to have rifle ranges and bowling alleys, and over on the right hand side in the early days they used to have a big picture theatre. And when the man of the house was required to work an extra shift or do overtime, he was allowed to bring his family in and there'd be movies playing, and they could go to the pictures while the old man went to work. James Speights was a real family orientated man, so he laid everything on to make sure the families were well looked after while the men were at work. So what we're going to do now, we're going to work our way up the hill. This is High Street, just to give you an idea of some of the different building styles that were developed in the early days, the Edwesian and Victorian style housing, terrace houses. For anyone that's been to Edinburgh, the city will be quite familiar as far as street layouts and things are concerned. Dunedin is based on the city of Edinburgh. When they were first setting the city up, in fact, they brought some young surveyors out from Scotland, gave them a map of Edinburgh, and were told to come down here and make it fit. So they came down here and they slaved away for 3 years, surveying and setting up what they could to the maps of Edinburgh, and they went back to the New Zealand Company, which was based in Wellington in those days, and said, well, we've been and done as much as we can. We've got two problems. One is where we want to put the main street, there's a flaming great hill, and there's no flat land. So they just made a decision right there and then. The answer was quite simple as far as they were concerned. We'll just take the hill down and put it in the harbour. So that was the start of the reclamation of flatland in Dunedin. But while all that was going on, of course, the homes and suburbs were being developed, and this is one of the earliest suburbs that was first established here in Dunedin. So you'll see quite a variety of properties up here. Of course, being up this hill created problems in itself. Nobody liked walking up this hill to get home or go to work. So this hill was the first cable car that was established in New Zealand, was put on High Street. And it ran right up until 1964, up and down this hill. And it was a push-pull type cable car, so they would put the cable, one cable car coming down would pull the other one up. And in fact the cables and the tracks are still underground here. So all they did when they got rid of the cable cars was build the road over the top. But these big places up here on the left and the right, they were all boarding houses in the early days. And this building on the left and behind the trees was in fact a hospital. So we're up into the suburb of Mornington, and the Mornington suburb was basically put around the cable cars. Because it was easy to get up and down the hill, people chose to come up here and live. Well, I was hoping we were going to be able to show you something from up here, but maybe not. Might see something. We'll go and have a wee look. This is called Unity Park, and unfortunately the weather's not going to let us see much, but generally from here you can see right down over the city and get a perspective of the reclamation that went on in the early days. Huge jobs, like it was all done with picks and shovels and horses and carts, and quite amazing the effort that went into get flat land. And we're not going to see a damn thing. So we'll drive around it instead. Get a bit of an idea out to the left through the fog there. Everything out here on the left, all this flat land that's out here to the left and in front of us is all reclaimed land. But as I say, unfortunately we're not going to see much today. So we'll keep driving. One of the things the early planners did, which we're very grateful for, they set aside a parcel of land about a kilometre wide, and it runs for 32 kilometres right round the lower hills of the city, which is where we are now, really, the lower hills, and they called it the town belt, and it's a belt of native bush that we're not allowed to do absolutely anything with. The town belt is very protected. You're not allowed to park in it, have a picnic in it, do anything in it apart from drive through it. So we'll drive through part of it as we go, work our way across the top. So this is Queen's Drive. And it's down through the city town belt. The big red building on the right up in the trees there is another hospital. It's pretty much a geriatric hospital now. This beautiful old house in front of us was the scene for a movie. Called Blue Horizon. Starred Gwyneth Paltrow and was the main actor in there, but they did a lot of filming in there. Quite a few of the old houses in Dunedin have been used as backdrops in film movies that have been made. More so in recent years, of course, with The Lord of the Rings and all that sort of type movie. But being a university town that have papers on filmmaking and all that sort of activity, there's always film crews around the town made up of students that are studying the subject. But all the old terrace houses and things that you see, all these houses around here are over 100 years old. Still in an all pretty good repair, really. The Historic Places Trust that I mentioned before, if a building is 100 years old, you can apply and get a Historic Places We get it registered with the Historic Places Trust, and then they will help you maintain it. This school here on the left is one of the first primary schools set up in New Zealand, and this big building here on the left is Otago Boys High School, built around about the same era as the railway station and the Supreme Court. You can tell that by the architecture. But it's New Zealand's first all-boys school. Still run as an all-boys school, Otago Boys High School. It got a roll this year of about 800 kids, and it also has quite a large boarding group of boarding students as well. So. Just here on the left is the Moana pool, Olympic-sized swimming pool in there, gymnasiums, and fun parks and all that sort of thing, water slides for the kids. New Zealand swimming squad quite often comes down here when they're doing their training for competitions, and generates quite a bit of enthusiasm for the local swimmers. Really nice up in here through on a nice day. Pretty dismal today, I'd have to admit. We're jewellers and clockmakers. And in the late 50s, the last descendant of the family passed away. She was single, had no one to leave the property to, so she left it to the city, and it's run now as a open home for inspection, and it's exactly the way it was when she died. It's a big crew in there looking after it, but beautiful old home. A lot of the things in it are way before their time. Like in the early or to late 18th century, they built water coolers and washing machines and things like that long before anything was developed commercially, and they're all in there, built by the watchmakers. So we're in university country now. All these buildings and things you see around here are all student accommodations. The grey building on the right is, they call it Carrington College. When the kids first come to university in Otago, their first year they have to stay in a college. They're not allowed to do anything else unless they're staying at home. But if they're coming in from out of town, they've got to stay in a college. So we've got buildings like that all around the place to house first-year students. And the idea of that is so that at least they get a feed. They've got a curfew, and it gives them an opportunity to get orientated with the university itself. So we've got colleges all over the place, and we'll see a few as we drive around. The Carrington College houses about, I think it's around about 580 or something like that. When the kids come to town, it certainly brings the old town to life. We get 24,000 students come into the town every year, and you get that many kids aged between 18 and 30. It becomes a bit of a party town for a while, till they decide that, or realise that they're actually here to learn something, and mum and dad are paying for it, most of them. But quite an expensive college to come to if you're looking for a degree in commerce or something like that. You're up for upwards of $60,000. But you notice how the housing style was changed around in this end of the town compared to where we've just driven from. You'll see another building up amongst the cloud, or in the clouds there in front of us. It's another college that actually started its life out as a nunnery. They regrouped and downscaled and sold the building to the university. These houses on the right, these the Victorian terraces, you see they're 1897 they were built, and they were actually built to support a whisky distillery. Wilson's Distillery was directly behind that block of houses, and they built the houses to house their staff, which was what pretty much all the new industry had to do, because of course there was no housing here, and to get staff they had to have houses. So the company built the houses and got them working under contract, and they paid rent. Directly over the road here is Dunedin's Botanical Gardens. And for you brave souls that would like to go for a walk through the gardens, we will stop.
No.
But first we'll go and have a look at the world's steepest street. Aldwyn Street was challenged. We've always maintained it was the steepest street, but it was challenged by San Francisco quite a few years ago. So they brought out the Guinness Book of Records people from London. They surveyed both streets and declared Baldwin the steepest. So we were quite proud to have that title, but I believe there are streets in this town equally as steep, because as I said before, it's all built on hills, so. But this one's officially recognised. This road we're on, this road was cut into this valley in the early days, originally to service a gold mine. Up in the gullies ahead of us is Gabriel's Gully, where there was a reasonable find of gold deposits. So they cut the track up through here to get into the goldfield, and then they extended it to take it over the top of the hill to link up with the walking track that used to come up out of Port Chalmers, where your boat's parked. So the only way into the city in the early days was to walk to the top of the hill and then get a coach, a wagon, or walk down through this valley. or of course they could catch water taxis and things, ferries, and come up the harbour. Top. I'm sure you'd want to do that with a belly full of beer. But I will stop and let you out if you want.
Whoa.
So there she blows.
Where?
Interesting though, like it's certainly
My God.
pretty daunting when you get to the top. It's for every 2 paces you make, you go up a metre. There's always a camper that'll park on a bus stop. So we'll stop here for a couple. Normally what I would do is park over here by the bus stop and let you get out and walk around, but I don't think it'd be much fun there today. Look out to the left up in the trees, up on the skyline there, the backdrop of the fog, is Knox College. It's another college for the kids, and there's another one down the end of the street here, and all these houses and things up through here on the left are all pretty much student accommodations. The odd smattering of local residents. The reason Otago University is so popular with people from other centres is that everything's so close. Like from here to the university, it's just a walk through the gardens. You know, the university's on the other side.